Yeah, I guess I'll introduce myself first. I'm Megan. I, where to start? I actually write a travel blog. Some of you may have seen me in the past. I've spoken at conferences all about Pinterest and social media, etc. Right now, I am mostly freelancing or consulting on social media, Pinterest, digital marketing, that kind of thing. I also work part time for Wanderful, which is the company behind WITS, which is the Women in Travel Summit. Um, I hope everybody can hear me. Please say in the chat if you can't, because I'm trying to pay attention to both. But yeah, so I where was I? So I also work for Wanderful Wits, which is the Women in Travel Summit. So if you're a female or you're into supporting women in travel, definitely look it up. It's next May. I think it's the 2nd to the 5th. So definitely come check us out. Anyways, back to me, back to Pinterest. I guess I would say that my love of Pinterest kind of started when I first started my first blog, which was about 5 years ago. Because like many of whether you're starting a business or a blog, like getting that initial traction can be really, really, really difficult. Unless you have like an outstanding, you know, I don't know, if you have millions of dollars behind you to put into advertising, it can get challenging just to start your digital marketing from the ground up. And Pinterest is one of those places where I think they don't place an emphasis on how long you've been around, whereas like SEO and social media, etc., like you need time in order to grow. And Pinterest is nice that you can start to see results right from the start. I know we asked you guys a couple questions, so I know most of you have already started pinning, and you have strategies in place already. So I don't want to waste too much time on like the beginning or the basics, but I am just going to cover some of it just to make sure you didn't skip a step, like while you were setting up your channels and that kind of thing. So, all right, without further ado, again, ask questions in the chat. I'm not paying super attention to it, but Megan from Impact Travel Alliance is, so we will make sure to answer questions at the end. Please try to save your questions for the end because I won't pay attention. All right, so we have Pinterest, obviously. So this is the basics that I was talking about. We're not going to spend a ton of time on here, but the number one important thing I think is to think of Pinterest not as a social media platform, but as a search engine. Yeah, they put the icons with all the other social media platforms out there, but it's not so much about the person or the profile or the personality. It's more so about search and keywords. And people use Pinterest to go and find information, or they are in a planning process, like whether that's planning for a wedding or planning a trip or planning what they're making for dinner later. Think about how you use Pinterest, and that's probably how the average person uses Pinterest. So like I said, there are over 2 billion monthly searches. So it's search. So think any kind of strategy that you're using for SEO is going to apply to Pinterest to some degree. So for example, like if you have a blog post that's like my first time seeing a mountain, if you're going to put it into Pinterest, phrase it like what it's like seeing a mountain for the first time. You want it to appeal to the person who's searching, not necessarily about you, if that makes sense. If you only have like an hour a week to devote to Pinterest, I would focus on keywords. So whether that's in your descriptions, your boards, your profile, your titles, basically anything and anywhere you can shove keywords, that's what I would focus your time on. Next, so setting up your account. Like I said, we're not going to spend a ton of time here, but make sure you have a business account. I put a couple of resources in here. So I'm assuming they'll be able to share this presentation with you guys afterwards. So if not, I'll make sure they get all these links for you. But Pinterest is one of the few social media platforms out there that you don't get penalized for having a business account. So at least for now, anyways. I'm assuming that'll change someday, but so do it. You get access to crazy analytics. You can hook your website up to it. There's just a lot you can do with a business account. So definitely do that. It's very easy to do. It's literally like a flip of a switch, essentially. As part of the business account, make sure you verify your website. Each website, I believe, can only be hooked to one Pinterest profile. No, that might be false, but your Pinterest profile can definitely have one website. So if you're running multiple blogs or businesses, etc., set up a different Pinterest profile for each one. Make sure you have rich pins. This is, again, really easy to do. You can do it right through the Yoast plugin. If you, for some reason, don't have Yoast, which, no opinions there, or if you have like Squarespace or Wix or something along those lines, there are other plugins you can use. I know there's literally like Pinterest verification plugins, or it's literally just a snippet of code that you have to stick into your header. You can pay somebody on Upwork to do it for you in like 2 seconds if you don't have the tech wherewithal. If you are having deeper issues with getting rich pins verified, I would go to your host. I've heard a couple hosts are blocking the crawler from Pinterest, so you might actually have to change hosts. Rich pins are essential to your Pinterest strategy. I've seen accounts that are constantly getting about 10,000 hits a month, and their rich pins get disconnected because of their host, and it goes down to less than 1,000. So it's a necessary thing. So that would be worth changing hosts over. Keep it simple. We're elaborating on that further down the road. Don't be spammy. Constantly think about what you're doing and if it could be flagged as spam. Obviously, in the world of fake news, all social networks are trying to crack down on spam or fake social media accounts or anything like that. So you need to make sure what you're doing looks authentic, looks like it's being done by a human, and isn't going to get you flagged on the platform. And then, like I said, always think about keywords. This is going to be a overwhelming topic for the next 40 minutes. All right, what most of you want to know is, how do you grow? Well, for most social platforms, you usually are concerned with getting followers. You can find a lot of success on Pinterest without getting a ton of followers, in all honesty. I was getting maybe 5,000 to 10,000 hits a month with only 2,000 followers. It's not impossible, even if you only have 500 followers. There's definitely ways to create traction on Pinterest without a ton of followers, but there are things you can do to encourage people to follow your account. So for example, make sure your links are accurate and working. This means every pin that you put into Pinterest, make sure that the link that it's pointing back to the blog post isn't broken. So if you change your link structure on your website, or I don't know, link structure, or if you end up with 301 errors or 404 errors or anything like that, make sure you set up redirects. There's a lot of plugins that's literally, I think one's literally redirection. So you can easily update to make sure that your pins point to the right place. Sorry. So I just had a total mind fart. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, so if your links are broken on Pinterest, you're going to get penalized because, again, it's going to look spammy. It's going to look like you aren't an authentic account. So that's definitely something you need to pay attention to. For us, we actually just rebranded from 20-something travel to Why Wait to See the World. And when we did that, we just redirected the entire site. But I didn't go back and update any of the links and pins that were working really well. So they literally, some of the pins themselves still say 20-something travel on the actual pin. They all point to 20-something travel links, but because we had all of the redirects set up well and set up correctly and accurately from the start, our traffic never suffered from those pins. So you can redirect and it works with Pinterest as long as the content still resembles the pin, if that makes sense. We'll talk about that further down the road. All right, getting followers. Create many pins for the same blog post. I can't say this enough. If you start to have a blog post that, or something like a lead magnet, or a pin that's working really well and pointing back to your website or your business or anything like that, make sure that you continue to make more pins for that same link. And, what I mean by that is like change up the fonts, change up the image, change up the wording, see if you can capture different eyeballs. Like, think of like, get a group of like 10 of you together and find what appeals to you on Pinterest. Like, you can create kind of a little mini like Pinterest mastermind group and be like, okay, like let's make a group board and everybody just pin the pins that grab your attention, like on the newsfeed, like what colors, what fonts, etc. And then look and just see how different people's like what people like. Because I personally tend to flock towards white fonts and very clean, very simple. Sometimes, like the cursive type of thing, but that's not going to be the same for everybody. Like my mom is going to have a very different opinion than I will. So it's something you need to think about, is that like, just because it might not look the most aesthetically appealing to you doesn't mean that it's not going to capture a big chunk of eyeballs. Like some of our best pins are the ugliest thing in the entire world. All right. Moving on. We'll talk about that more later as well. To make sure to cross promote. So like if you have an audience on Instagram, or you have an audience on Facebook, or a big newsletter or anything like that, make sure you are trying to push those people to your Pinterest profile as well. So you can run giveaways on Pinterest. You can run, kind of community engagement type of things. Like if you start a group board and you have everybody upload pictures or experiences, or, if you're trying to plan a trip together, or if you're starting an initiative on sustainable travel and you want to get as much research together, there's just tons of different ways you can do this, but make sure that everybody that you touch knows that you have a Pinterest profile and knows how to find it. Be the first to pin your content. That means like Pinterest wants you to be the one putting your content into Pinterest. Like, yes, you do want to promote people who are coming to your website to pin your content just as much as you want to promote, or just as much as you want to pin your own content. But number one thing is like, as soon as you write a blog post or as soon as you launch a new website or anything like that, make sure you're the one putting the content into Pinterest. It's just then they can ensure that that content isn't spammy because it's directly linked to you and it's verified, etc. Finally, optimize your website. So that's just like making sure you have Pinterest-friendly buttons. You have a Pinterest-friendly little graphic at the bottom of a blog post. Everything like that. Like, just make sure it's friendly. There's a lot of tutorials on how to do this. But I wouldn't spend. I've seen so many bloggers and so many businesses focus so much on making sure that their website is Pinterest friendly, but then their actual content in Pinterest isn't. So it's just, make sure you're not getting lost into the abyss of your website, if that makes sense. This is what I just said. Number of followers aren't the most important thing. What is important is the level of engagement of your followers. This is from Pinterest itself. We distribute your content to your followers first to figure out what's resonating. From there, we distribute your best performing pins to other people who are looking for ideas like yours. So you do want to make sure that the content that is, or you do want to make sure that the followers you are getting are actually interested in your content, because if you just go out there and get a bunch of spammy followers, they're not actually going to be interested in what you're pinning, and then it's going to end up hurting you in the long run. So authenticity is definitely, and integrity is definitely key with Pinterest. Right. So I'm going to scoot over here just to take you through what this is. So Pinterest recently launched this follower feed. So it's over here. So like, this is the home page. Obviously, like if you log in, you usually get, this is curated, this is an algorithm, etc. So they now have this tab, which is like the old Pinterest, where it's very time sensitive. So these are all pins that were pinned within the last 10 minutes. So like, this is somebody I follow, and look at all the top pins are from her. So yeah, these are going to be only people that you follow. So it's very much like the old Pinterest. So there are ways to kind of optimize for this tab, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So this, I mean, even just by looking at it, it looks like they've definitely updated it. But this is still what it says in their best practices on like how to make sure you're optimizing. So this feed starts over every night at midnight UTC, which I think actually I might not have updated this. So it might be 6 p.m. I don't know, with daylight savings, whatever, midnight UTC. And the first 5 rule applies. So Pinterest is going to show the first 5 pins from each person you follow to pin after midnight UTC each day. So what that means is that if you're using a scheduler, which you should be, I highly recommend Tailwind. We'll talk about it more in depth in a little bit. You should be making sure that the first 5 pins you pin every single day are pins from your website. It's content you own. It's not repins or anything like that. It's all content that you own. It's easy to do. So then it goes chronological after that, which is what is happening here, because these are all very, very chronological pins. So just to keep an eye on that. Or, I don't know. But yeah, so make sure that you are pinning throughout the day. As you can see, these are 3 minutes old, 8 minutes old, and they're showing at the top of this feed. I don't know how many average users are utilizing this tab. So when, kill yourself to make sure you're putting out 50 pins a day, unless like it's working for you, then go for it. But just something to keep in mind, that there is a chronological aspect to it as well. All right, this is analytics time. So if you are, okay. So if you have, like I said, if you have an hour to spend a week on Pinterest, number one is keywords. Keywords aren't going to be important unless you have fresh content. Fresh content doesn't necessarily mean new blog posts or new lead magnets or anything like that. Fresh content means, it does mean new blog posts, but it also just means new pins or new descriptions. So you could essentially use the same image with a different description, and that's fresh content. So it's not always about how many blog posts you can write in a week and how many of those you can get into Pinterest. You want to just make sure you're putting fresh things in. So what I'm saying is that you should go and find the pins or the blog posts that are already working for you, SEO wise or Pinterest wise, and then start there and make 10 more pins for each one of those and 10 new descriptions and etc. So that's how you find success with Pinterest, is just making sure you are putting your content in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So here's a great resource page. So everybody's like, I don't know where to start, and I see so many people who just try to go through the backlog of their posts and just make sure that they have every single post in Pinterest. And I honestly think that's a super waste of time. If you wrote a post about the day you, I don't know, rode a donkey somewhere, that was a really bad example, especially in this day and age. I don't know, if you wrote a blog post about, like we had a blog post about, my blog partner had a friend who made a cake for her with her whole logo on the cake, and that was an entire blog post. Would I waste my time putting that into Pinterest? No. You want to, focus your time on the posts that you know are going to do well, and then work from there. So a good place to start is to look at this Pinterest trends. Here, I can actually show you this live and in person. So they update this quite often. This is literally on Pinterest itself, and they're the ones updating it. So this is them basically sharing their knowledge bombs on you, and you should definitely take advantage of it. So holiday shopping, obviously. So like 6 gifting trends for the holidays. So like if you look in here, You're going to see these are the types of gifts, I would assume, like home decor. I don't even know what YOY growth means. Oh, year over year. So home decor. So if you have something, on your website that you can focus on, is home decor, jewelry, wellness, toys, hosting, tech accessories. These are where I would focus. Like if you have like let's say an e-commerce store and you have any products that are in this category, I would make sure you start with getting those pieces of content onto Pinterest first. Like that's number one. Make sure you're doing that. And then down here, these are some really awesome things like top trend reports for December. I love looking at these at the beginning or the end of the month because this is literally, they're looking over the last, I don't know how many years and telling you what the trends are for that month. So now is the time to make sure you're getting this content in there so it can grow and expand over the entire month. So like handmade at home, try this on. So look at Chelsea boots, sweater and skirts, trench coats. So if you have any kind of articles on like packing for cold weather destinations, these are the pieces that you should make sure that are in those articles if you're going to put them onto Pinterest. Switch it up. These may not be so travel oriented, but like these types of reports are insanely useful when you're planning out your blog post editorial, but also if you have a big backlog of content, that's where you should start each month on like which posts to actually import into Pinterest. The next one is to actually just look at your Pinterest analytics. So you can do that by going to analytics, you go to website, chai break. So I like to go to clicks because what's the point of Pinterest? And if you're not driving traffic back. And I go here to most clicked pins from the last 30 days. And so I start at the top, which is hilarious. This has always been our best performing pin and it always will be. I don't know that for sure, but I feel like it's going to be. It's been the best performing pin for 3 years and look at it. It's the ugliest thing in the world. And it still says 20-something travel in like a very bad way. But this is literally driving clicks every single month. So, but I've made so many pins focusing on this in just different forms. So I would literally just work down this list and make 2, 5, 10 more pins for each one of the blog posts that these point to. Yeah, these aren't even like the best looking pins, but so what do I mean by that? You can see it here. That's a good example. So like this is how to spend 24 hours or 1 day in Boston. This was one blog post. All 4 of these pins all point to that same blog post. So you can see there's different fonts, there's different colors, there's different images. Like if someone's interested in beer, we've got one that kind of points to that. These are different architecture. This is on the water. So those are going to grab different people's attention. And at different times. I also would definitely highly recommend doing blog posts without any fonts overlaid because Pinterest has this little visual editor. So if you click that, it's going to bring up any other pins that have the same visual like components to it. And this could work in your favor the opposite way. So if you are, writing, I wouldn't do any kind of image that's like very obscure, but if you're writing a blog post about like, I always use the Eiffel Tower as an example, but if you have a picture of the Eiffel Tower, use that as this because then it could show up in this visual search related images, if that makes sense. Anyways, we'll talk about specific pins in a little bit, but your analytics is a great place to start. After you work through all of these, there's usually quite a few. There's also your Google Analytics. So if you go to acquisition, and in here, FYI, you all have non-disclosure. Not share any of these numbers with you. Just giving you an insight into my soul here. So if you go into here, and Pinterest, and you do acquisition. What did I put? I think it's source. Oh no. Oh, never mind. I'm doing something wrong. So if you go into organic search, this is what I'm trying to show you. And you search behavior landing page. This is going to show you your blog posts that do really well with SEO on Google. So I would start at the top, make 10 pins, make sure they're all in Pinterest, and work your way down from there. If they're doing well in organic search, they're probably going to do really, really well in Pinterest. If you have content that's really targeted towards men, I would maybe back burner that. Where Pinterest is growing substantially with men, it's not quite there yet. So if you only have like a specific amount of time, like side table that. If you have content that's more targeted towards women, maybe go with that instead. That's not sexist. It's just the way that the platform is set up at the moment. So this is an interesting new tool as well that you may or may not have access to. It depends on how heavy of a user you are. You just exit out of some of these so that the stream doesn't go down. I don't know that I need that. Perfect. So this is a new tool that's really interesting to think about for content as well. So this gives you insights into that followers tab. So if you want to play up content that's going to directly relate to them, this is a great place to start. So these are the categories that my followers are interested in, like travel. That's great. That's all we write about. So like travel destinations. This will also give you a clue into keywords to use to make sure you're using. And then like their age breakdown. So like if you're writing for an older demographic, but you don't have a lot of followers in that older demographic, then, you know, try to skew it maybe a little bit more, or try to go after followers that are in that demographic. Like this is a good example of the breakdown of gender on Pinterest. The almost 76% of my following is female. So, you know, best man pants for travel isn't going to do quite as well as female shoes for travel. That's a weird way of saying that. Another thing to think about is device. So how many people are on their mobile phone versus on the actual desktop. So if you are trying to play into mobile friendly, you know, make sure that the words are readable even on a mobile device. So that's definitely, like, the size of them are still readable, which is really, really important. This is another thing to look at is your location of a lot of your audience. So if they're in LA, the average user isn't traveling, you know, far and wide. So that might be a good place to think about if you have a lot of, you know, experience in some of these places to expand upon your content in those areas. Just play around with there. It's probably going to change on a daily basis, in all honesty, because this is a brand new tab. So, you know, I apologize if it changes tomorrow, but oh, that's a good filter. This is new. Your engaged audience. That's great. And all Pinterest users. That's really interesting as well. So yeah, play around with that tab. See what you can find. Right. What you've all been looking forward to. Keywords. These are just some of the places that you need to make sure you're putting keywords. So your profile name and description, your board names and descriptions, and your pin descriptions. I'll show you that really quickly. I don't know why they don't have a link. Coffee break, chai break. All right, so this is the name of my profile. I mean, you can see that our slug is still very short, very easy to remember. So this is just like, you can change this on a daily basis if you want, but like our site is all about millennial travel, so we make sure it's even like as far as in our name. I know not everybody can do that, but we can, so that's why we do that. These are the keywords that I found work really good for us. So travel magazine for millennials, inspiration and travel tips for planning millennial travel experiences. What you need to know is that it needs to sound human. Like, don't just go out there and put like millennial travel slash travel millennial slash travel tips slash travel inspiration. You want it to be sentences, and you want it to sound like a human, basically. Don't be fake news, people. I don't know how search friendly any of these boards are going to be, so this might not be a good example. I haven't touched this account in a while. Here you go. So then your board, make sure that your boards are SEO friendly. So we have like USA travel, Eastern Europe travel. Like, you got to think about what people are actually searching for. So if I say like Eastern Europe, like what comes up? So you can see that travel is the third most popular thing that people search for. So that's why we put travel in that sense. A lot of people get really hung up on making all of this stuff look really pretty. So like they'll add like little stars or dashes, etc. I'm not 100% certain that that's the best way to go. I feel like it would impact your SEO and your search capabilities. So just, be aware of it. Make sure that you are, just make sure you're tracking it if you do choose to add all those little snippets into your boards, so that, if your traffic does start to suffer, you know exactly why, and you can go back and take it out, start over again. So make sure your board titles are keywords friendly. Make sure your board descriptions are keyword friendly. Like, again, this is like maybe not exactly how I would speak, but it is very search friendly and it's still human like. The last place to put keywords are into your actual pins. So you want to make sure that it's an interesting new little thing. You want to make sure that your blog post titles are SEO friendly. So this is what it looks like when you have rich pins enabled. It will automatically pull in your blog post title. It will automatically pull in your meta description. And then this is the description that I uploaded within Pinterest itself. So you can see hashtags. We'll talk about those too, my URL, all that type of thing. So you want to make sure you're putting as many keywords in here as possible. So there's 4 places right here that you can see that offer you keywords. So it's the actual words that are on the pin itself, your blog post title, your blog post meta description, which you can set with the Yoast plugin, and in the description that you uploaded into Pinterest. So just something to keep in mind. Again, think of the pinner's mindset. Unfortunately, there isn't any like keyword search tool for Pinterest. You can use like key search and something like that just to get an idea, but that's going to pull in information from Google or YouTube or that kind of thing, instead of Pinterest itself. So, but this is what I like to do. Like, if I'm, one day in Boston, like that doesn't even have any like extra things. So there's some results. So that's probably what I would more focus on. But I definitely tried out different forms of this so that I could capture different people. Where to find keywords, use the search bar, Google Search Console, keyword searches, use them naturally. Number 1, keywords. Oh, it's just make sure you're using keywords first. Like, for example, this pin was really ugly, but it does really well because it's keyword optimized. Sorry, I'm in a co-working space and people moseying about. All right, so pinning. I'm going to go through this really quickly because I'm starting to run out of time and I want to make sure that you have time to ask questions. So the do's, make new pins and new descriptions using current best practices for old content. Like I said, fresh content. Check this regularly. This is the best practices. I pulled that quote from it just so you make sure you are, when Pinterest rolls out a new a feature or something like that, they always update this, and it's actually in somewhat human-like language, so you can kind of understand it. Whereas like Facebook's and that kind of thing, I never really understand it. But this one you can actually kind of understand. Tailwind is that scheduling tool that I mentioned. Their blog and their social media channels are really, really, really great place to find information about Pinterest and how to best use it. They always do like live webinars and stuff on their Facebook account, and that's really, really, really helpful. Pin to all relevant boards, not at once, slowly leak out the repins. So this is something that I think a few of you actually mentioned that you were trying to figure out how to do. So if you use Tailwind, they have this really handy dandy board list option. I don't know if I have any kind of content that I can upload real quick. And this is taking up a lot of my bandwidth. So I'm sorry if it gets choppy. But you can see here that I've added a lot of like, the green are my group boards, and then the blue are my regular boards. But you can make these lists so that when you go in and add a pin, which it's working on. Oh my God, so pin's going out. Okay, well I can just, here, I'll just I think I can do this. Oh no, that's just going like that. Here, I think I can do it this way. Oop, let's get away from Trump. Can you tell that this was a blog post I wrote recently? There you go, Camden. So reschedule this pin. Oh, this isn't gonna show up the way I want it to. Anyways, so you can actually go in here. I'll just upload a random picture for you guys just so you can see. All right, so upload an image. This is going to be interesting. I work for a shapewear brand right now, so this is going to be an interesting like image, FYI, just so you know. So yeah, so these are the lists of all the blog posts. So like this, if this fits into general travel, it's going to do that. It's going to pull in all of the blog posts that it fits into any kind of general travel kind of topic. And then if you go down here to, I don't know why it won't. There you go. So if you go down here to use interval, I can actually set it so that a pin only goes to a blog post every however many days. So I like a good couple. And if you do set interval, see how it automatically is setting a schedule where like this pin's going to go out today, but then it's not going to go out again until the 13th, and then it's not going to go out again until the 16th, and the 20th, 23rd, 26th, etc. And it'll slowly work through your list of boards. So that makes sure that you are pinning that to all of the relevant boards, whether that's your group boards or your boards that you own, but you're not overwhelming your followers with the same content over and over and over again. So I love Tailwind for that. Sorry. All right, I hope you guys can still see me because I lost my little control bar. All right, so include Pinterest friendliness on your website. We talked about that, but don't spend too much time on it. Don't spend time going back and editing old pin descriptions. Sorry, I have a frog at my throat. This also goes with this one. Don't delete old underperforming pins. Don't worry about the past. Pinterest only wants you to think about the present and the future. Once they categorize a pin in your that you've uploaded, they're not going to go back and double check it and make sure, and see if you changed anything about it. Like once it's in there, and they're not going to change their mind. So the only time that I say it does make sense is if you change links, like if you don't want to redirect, if you do want to update the link. But unfortunately, if you do change the link of a pin, it's going to break all of the repins. So like say you've had 5,000 people repin that pin, it's going to go down to 0. So like your pin is still out there and it's still working for everybody else. Well, unless the link is broken, but it's not going to boost that pin within your profile anymore, if that makes sense. So it's honestly, unless you have quite a few with broken links, I don't know that it's worth it to really do anything about them. Like I wouldn't spend a ton of time on it. If you notice it quickly, maybe change it. But it's just, yeah, don't go back and update descriptions. Don't delete underperforming pins. It's not like Instagram where, it'll affect your algorithm in the long run. It really doesn't. Don't set your pin description as your meta description. Like I said, that's another place where you can add keywords. So use different keywords. Like make sure each section has keywords, but there's different opportunities to use different keywords. Don't spend too much time focusing on your site. Pinning external links, focus on SEO, not on your site. Perfect. Strategies. This is just like a top-down thing. I know a lot of people are doing repin threads on Facebook, and I really don't think that this is the way to go anymore. This is how I got started, I'll be perfectly honest. Like 5 years ago, I was repinning like 300 pins a day, which was just so insane. And while that did it got my feet off the ground and it got my accounts started, that was back in the time when Pinterest really wanted you to be interacting with each other. Whereas now they're putting more emphasis on you pinning content that you own rather than you repinning other people's content. Like I wouldn't say to stop completely repinning other people's content, but it isn't the number one thing that you should be doing anymore. So just make sure if you do repin threads, I would keep them small and keep them only with the people that you know and trust their content, that it is directly related to yours, and that it is high quality. It's kind of my 2 cents on that. Group boards, I still think those are a good way to go. It's a good way to, you never know who's going to repin your pin from a group board. So I do think it's definitely still worth your time and investment to make sure that your pins are going to all relevant group boards. Tailwind tribes. This is similar to repin threads, but you get to pick what content you are pinning, usually. I don't know. I haven't messed around with these too much, but I don't think there are pin every single in a tribe. It usually goes like if you put one in, you've got to pin 5 or something like that, but like you can pick which ones you want to pin, because like this one I would never pin. That's a horrible description. This one, that's a great pin because that's got so much stuff in there. I would never pin this though because this is Thursday Travel Blogger. Like that's so personalized and no one cares. Like this pin itself is great, but the description sucks. This description's great. The pin itself sucks. This is great. That's a really pretty pin. This is a good pin. So I would go through and look for the pins that like are actually going to be good. So I would get a couple Tailwind tribes, try those out. Advertising, don't bother. The mega giants are like Target and Amazon and Walmart are dumping so much money into Pinterest that it's just raising the prices so insanely that average Joe is just not going to find success. Just a warning. Affiliate links. Some platforms out there allow you to put direct affiliate links into Pinterest and have it directly go to the purchasing website. That is not Amazon. You cannot put Amazon affiliate links directly in Pinterest, but I think there are some like clothing affiliates, like Reward Style or something like that, that you can do this with. Some more direct affiliates might allow this, so it's something to look into. It could end up being like, I don't think you're going to ever get rich quick by just putting affiliate links into Pinterest, but you could get a little bit of side income, a little bit of passive income. So it's definitely something to do. Right. Let me see if we had any other things that I had written down. Pinterest friendly posts, pins more eye-catching, pinning routine. Cool. Yeah, so let me see. I see a question from Beth. When creating multiple pins for the same blog post, Do you want to space out the timing of when you pin them, or can you do it all at once? I did kind of cover that. I definitely would make sure you are spacing them out. You don't want the exact same pin multiple times. Personally, like in my profile, I have this header set to my most pinned pins to my blog. Sorry, this thing's using up a lot of my CPU, so I don't think it's gonna load. But this little header up here is all of the pins that go into my blog post board. So that would end up being the same pin over and over and over again, and you just, I don't know, it just doesn't really work. I would just make sure, like even this I don't love. I would definitely space it out. Use Tailwind. I think Buffer Now you can schedule for Pinterest. Use a scheduler. It makes your life so much easier. Don't kill yourself on making sure you have spreadsheets and stuff like that, unless like that really, makes you happy. I've used those in the past. So it's definitely something you can use to kind of keep track of like which pins you put on which boards. Don't be afraid to repin the same pin to another board like down the road. If a decent amount of time has gone by, I'll repin the same pin to multiple boards. Tailwind did just release this beta on Smart Loop, which if any of you used to use Board Booster, this was my favorite aspect of Board Booster. So it'll like within your a board, it will automatically repost your pins that have like moved to the bottom. It will repost them to the top. I haven't tried this out because I know that was something that got Board Booster in trouble and got it shut down. But I know Tailwind and Pinterest have a good relationship, so I would assume they have permission to be able to do that. So yeah, I don't know. It's something to play around with. It kind of like refreshes your pins and like brings them back into like the timeline. So that's definitely something to look into. All right, let me look at these questions here. Rich pins, can you explain more about what these are? What kind of content should you put in the description of the pin? I may want to do further. Okay, rich pins, let me go back. So rich pins literally just means that that Pinterest can speak to your website. So like it's important to claim your website. It literally, like I showed you, I'm trying to think if I can find any, so like here, even in the news feed, you can see that like this is definitely a rich pin because it automatically pulls your blog post title and the meta description, which is what you set with Yoast. I don't think I can get into my website quick enough to do this, to show you, but so yeah, it walks you through it in this website. So it's just adding a meta tag to your website. Like I said, you can do this through Yoast, the plugin. It's very, very, very easy to do. It literally just means that Pinterest can authenticate where that content is from. So it's combating spam. So like it's pulling data from the website rather than you just saying like this points to this website and this website is about this. So like if you have a pin that's about traveling in Boston and you are linking that to a Russian website for voting Republican, Pinterest is going to figure that out. And if you have rich pins, they're going to automatically assume that that's verified, before I'm walking in circles here. Let me see if I can back it up a little. Rich pin, yeah, it gives Pinterest the trust that your website and your pin are what they say they are, if that makes sense. So it's giving them verification that your website is legit. It's letting it talk to it. It's making sure that the pin matches the description, matches the link, etc. So like Pinterest even wants you to go as far as like only use the photo for your pin that is actually in your blog post. So like they want the content and the pin to match as much as humanly possible. So that's like what it's all about. Let me see if I can find an example of what it looks like without a rich pin. I don't think this is, see, this is not a rich pin. So like you have no idea any information about this. It's literally just an image. You don't know where it's going to point to. This is literally just an image. I don't know why anyone would put that into Pinterest. But yeah, so I mean, if you use rich pins, you're going to know within 2 seconds of you uploading it if it doesn't actually hook to your website appropriately. So like this isn't a rich pin. If you have products, rich pins are really useful because you can shop them. I think Nordstrom had rich pins. I'll show you. There's like recipe categories, there's blog post categories, there's there's recipe pins, there's product pins, article pins, app pins, so if you have an app, etc. Recipe pins will break it down so that you can see the actual like ingredients that you need underneath. I'm sure you've all seen those. Product pins will actually show you the price, and then I think you can sometimes shop directly from, nope, I guess Nordstrom doesn't, might have it, nope. Maybe Target. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I could find a good example for you, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna find one. Anyways, but yeah, rich pins is just basically so that Pinterest can talk to your website and get the information it needs from the very beginning. Google it and you'll find more information. Thanks for the presentation. How long should a description be for a pin, really? And can you speak to hashtag use in these? Yes. I don't think a description can be too long. I think it cuts you off at like 600 characters or something like that. I would fill up the whole thing, in all honesty. The more keywords you can do, the better. Hashtags also help you to get noticed in search. Don't overdo it. I would say like 5 to 10 at max. And always put them at the bottom because you don't want them to be the first thing that people see, because like my feed looks like this. Some people have Pinterest is always testing out different feed descriptions and stuff like that. So like, see how one of these I can see the person and one I can't. Sometimes they'll show the beginning of the description underneath. So you just want to make sure you are putting the hashtags underneath. As far as what hashtags to use, think basics, like think things that are going to help you with search. Don't get like crafty like you do with Instagram, like I don't know. I don't want to embarrass myself by giving you a suggestion, but if for this one, I would do hashtag Finland travel, hashtag igloo, I don't know, cold winter travel, stuff like that. 5 to 10. I always put my URL in my description too, so I'll usually do the description, my URL, and the hashtags. So it used to be where if your URL was in the description, it was clickable, and that was something that always got carried over usually when people repinned. So it got me a couple extra clicks like back to my website. Right now they're not clickable, but you never know if they're going to bring that back. So I would always do it just in case. And that way, that's another way to like make sure you're there. Are you using the free version of Tailwind or paid version? Well, I apparently let this lapse. So at the moment, I'm using the free version. And I think you get up to 100 pins per month with just the free version. And you get access to tribes with the free version. You just don't get as much like analytics. And I don't know, I think you maybe only get 1 or 2 tribes with free, and you can get up to 5 if you pay. But they do have a really good referral program. So if you are going to sign up, make sure you use somebody's affiliate link, and then try to promote it from there. But yeah, you can get pretty far with just the free version, especially when you're just starting out. Can you elaborate more on whether or not it's useful to have followers, and how can you quickly get to at least 500 followers? I mean, followers are obviously necessary. I went through a couple tips on how to get followers, making sure you're cross promoting. You can run competitions or giveaways through Pinterest. Like you can create a group board and allow people to upload to the group board, and like the best pin wins. Pins also have these cool try it option things. So like I can add a photo to another pin, so it would show up like underneath here. I think I can find one for you because I feel like it used to be right at the top. No, I'm not going to find this quickly, but oh, here you go, perfect. So like people can actually comment on a pin, or you can upload a picture to a pin, and that will boost your algorithm. So if you have followers like on Instagram or something, you can hook, like put your pin URL in your description on your Instagram and run a competition and be like, somebody gets a postcard, you know, for whoever uploads the best photo to this pin or something like that. Or, you know, if you're just trying to find followers, like that's a great way to do it as well. Like run a competition for followers. You can try spamming on Pinterest just because people aren't following for a person. It used to be a lot more successful than it is now. But I wouldn't be follower numbers. Like if you go to your page, it doesn't even show your followers. This shows your monthly views. So don't get hung up on your follower numbers. Obviously they're essential like in the long run, but if you're gonna focus on anything, focus on your SEO, not gaining followers. You can find your follower numbers like by going to here, but see, even like I've less than 3,000 followers, but I'm still getting 4,300 monthly views, you know, 43,000 monthly views. So don't get super hung up on followers. I've tried Smart Loop and it seems to work nicely for my account. Thanks, Kirsten. I definitely need to test that out, so I appreciate that. Love Tailwind. Cool. Any other questions from anybody? I think I'm going to wrap this up. I love Tailwind too. Definitely check out Tailwind. If you go to their blog or their, Enterprise Plan Insights. They add stuff every single day, I tell ya. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, hold on. One more question. When I click on the Pinterest button, it brings up these random images to pin to the post. Can I control which ones pop up? Oh, yes. It's usually a plugin. In order to do that, you can, or there's like a simple way to code it. If you just like Google around or ask in like a Facebook group with bloggers, there's definitely ways to do that so that like a certain blog post is the one that, or a certain pin or a certain image is the one that comes up first. It's definitely something you can do. I'm trying to think how we do it. I don't know. I usually on your website. You can go to like, all right. Oh, one more silly question, but if in Yoast I have confirmed my Pinterest site and have a Pinterest ID, does that mean I have rich pins? You can double check if you have rich pins by going to this website, business.pinterest.com/richpins. So you just go into here. This walks you through on how to make sure it's all there. You go to your validator, copy and paste your URL. Like you can take it with a blog post thing, whatever. Hit validate. And this will tell you whether or not it's all set up. If something's wrong here, it'll tell you, I think. But as long as these 4 things are checked, I believe you're all set. As long as this one's checked, you're all set. You do want to make sure that these things all are somewhat right. But yeah, as long as those are good to go, you're good to go. Again, if you're having issues, it could be your host. I can't remember if it was SiteGround or Performance Foundry, but one of the two has been blocking the Pinterest scraper recently. So if you do have like a deep underlying issue, go to your host. You might have to change your host. But all right, good. Thank you. I hope everybody has a good day. Again, I'm Megan. If you want to shoot me an email, I'm megan@whywaittoseetheworld.com. I do consulting and, sometimes Pinterest management, etc. I can answer questions. So please feel free to email me. I think I actually have a slide maybe with my information. There it is. So you can find me on social. You can find me, that's my website. Yeah, so I hope to see you all again someday and enjoy.